honest with you, I'm surprised you're here. I thought that late night at the Coachella deal last night would keep you at home, but it has not kept you home. I was about 3 miles away from it yesterday, and I felt like I should pay a ticket because I could hear it from about 3 or 4 miles away. You ready for this? I'm excited about not only concluding this, but I think I see a little bit of what the Lord was wanting to do to kind of work us right into what will be an extraordinary celebration next Sunday, which will be the celebration of the resurrection. But before the resurrection, there was a tragedy, and Pastor Paul will walk you through that on Good Friday. Today is Palm Sunday, as you know, and on Palm Sunday, if you don't basically know the story, it was the King of all righteousness coming in mounted on a donkey, and this was prophesied actually by Zechariah. It's an extraordinary picture of God taking on human flesh and descending to the point not just of coming to die a brutal death, but to actually come in humility on the back of a beast of burden, of which he was. And if you've ever been to Israel, and I've taken many there through the years, is that you make your way down this little thing, this little path towards the Kidron Valley, and it's fairly steep, and I just always imagine what that must have been like for him, because they were celebrating him as king, and then the fickle nature of fallen humanity, just a few days later they would be saying, crucify him, thumbs down on this unblemished lamb. Allow me to pray. Lord Jesus, this morning we come here not to hear from me, no way. We want to hear from you. We want to learn something, not just head knowledge, but practical application, something that will transform the way we think about you. Thinking properly about you is everything, Lord. To know your nature and why you came, and what is this redemption, and why does it matter? And these theological terms, Lord, they're important because they give us deep insight into who you are and why you sent your son to this rebellious planet and didn't just blow it up and start over. Lord, I don't understand, but give us a glimpse into the glory of your plan this morning as we finalize our thoughts on this amazing book of Ruth. Lord, we need your spirit. We need your guidance. I need your spirit and your guidance to help, to deliver this meal today, our daily bread. In Jesus' name, amen. I think before we press on, I wanted to I had some thoughts, and they were deep. I went out into the middle of the desert this morning early, and I was making coffee in the kitchen. Yeah, that's what I was making coffee in the kitchen. And I just grabbed a pen and a piece of paper, and I just started jotting some notes, because always when I get up, pretty much every day, because I end up teaching pretty much every day, Lord, what do I say? What shall I dispense? It's your word. It's your word. I do it so imperfectly, I know. But I just felt like there maybe needed to be a little bit more on redemption, because we looked at that last week, this kinsman-redeemer in the Book of Ruth. And if you are new to us, or maybe just watching online or watching on television, this may not make a whole lot of sense, but you can go back, and we've worked now through 3 weeks in this Book of Ruth, and that we need redeeming. We need to be bought back. And the question would be, why? Is that just some human being coming up with an idea of how to control people through religion and saying, Jesus bought us back? Or is there something deeper than there? And here's my question and my thought this morning. What are the options outside of God coming back and buying us back? What are the options? I guess we could have maybe Earth 2.0. Maybe you believe that there's a God and that there is an afterlife, but can he just clean it up a little around the edges, or maybe do away with some of the natural disasters or disease? That would be good. Maybe get rid of wars, and then we could just proceed on and live eternally. I think if you think more deeply about that, the fact that he came down and had to buy this planet back was the only option, but this could be one option, and yet I think we underestimate the decay that exists in our world. So being a guy, and many of you know, being a golf pro with my background, pretty much I find myself at the country club every day. That's just kind of where I go. So it may have looked a little cleaned up, and there may be a little more flowers planted at some of these clubs, and you go into nice gates, and it looks like, the pearly gates, a little bit like heaven. But walk into a locker room with me, and you might see some things otherwise. And I say this not just in jest, but in the reality that this is an ongoing state of decay. And when I walk in and I see a guy over there, and it's 8:30 in the morning, and he's already tipping a little bit, so he can even play golf today and then go and have dinner tonight, and he'll be doing that. I say that is not it. That's just somehow not what it should be. He shouldn't be already at 8:30 tipping it. There may be somebody else in the corner that's a silver spoon kid who just inherited a lot of his parents' money and never really had to do anything, never really contributed anything, but has enough of a fund to kind of lead whatever life he wants. Is that why God created us? So that we could just exist in a state of the pursuit of pleasure in some way? Is that really the pinnacle of human existence? Or maybe in another one of the corners, there's the guy on his fourth marriage who's a serial adulterer, and there's probably nothing that's going to really change the direction and the course of the way his mind thinks about women and thinks about his life and thinks about pleasure. So do away with your tsunamis, do away with your earthquakes, do away with your disease, and yet still there is a disease of the heart. This earth had to be bought back from the powers of death that would linger had there not been this repurchasing, new heart, new covenant, new people. I don't want Earth 2.0. I don't. I guess there could be alternative number 2 without redemption, and that would be no God, no afterlife, pure random chance. And that so much doesn't resonate with me because I feel like I'm having spiritual experiences all the time. I feel like I'm a living soul. I feel like I have a spirit. I don't feel like just a random bunch of atoms running around. I think we live life as if we are living souls. But if it's just a materialistic view of life and a worldview, that leads to despair and hopelessness. We've looked at that before. Some of the great philosophers said if you really want to be honest, some of these existential philosophers, then the only honest thing to do is just to kill yourself. And I guess if you get to a place of tremendous hopelessness and maybe you're watching today and you just say, look, I find myself there. I don't really have any hope or need to live. I guess make sure a few people around me are taken care of and I'll just exit stage left and cease to exist. Or number 3 would be there is a God, there is an afterlife, but redemption, ransom, and restoration. Restoration is possible, but not without redemption and ransom. So I want you to see that this walk through Ruth and this idea of redemption is not an absurd thought. I think intuitively, if you really think deeply about it, I think intuitively, because we know that there are physical laws that govern the material seen realm, intuitively we know that there are moral laws that have been violated and that govern the unseen part of who we are, because you're much more than just your atoms and your electron, made up of your electrons and neurons and neutrons and no, you're more than that. You're more than just material stuff. I think the intuition that there is cosmic justice is correct because there are laws that govern the way stars spin, Kepler's laws or Newtonian classic physics or whatever. There are laws that govern that, and intuitively. Otherwise, why? As even people who claim to be atheists, they're chanting and crying for justice, and that's wrong, and that's wrong. That just doesn't fit into your materialistic worldview because there is no right and wrong. There just is. So I think it's right that there has to be a legal, redemptive process in the cosmos, and God just doesn't violate his laws that are set on the inside of us because we were in fact created in his image. So I left the story last week, we looked and we just saw the first redeemer, the first choice or option. And first he said, I will redeem this Ruth. I will redeem Naomi's property. I will redeem this land. And then he says, I can't redeem it. And I said, that's exactly right. But we didn't get into why he can't redeem it. In terms of a prefiguring of Jesus, and if I'm losing you a little bit, I beg you to understand that I can't completely go back and summarize, otherwise we'll get lost and we'll never make it to the end. And we'll never finish this series. It'll be 2027, and we'll be on Ruth Redemption Part 88. So I don't want to put you in that situation, nor myself. So why could he not redeem it? Because, well, ultimately, as a prefiguring of Jesus, Boaz as a type, it must be an unblemished one. You can't redeem in the cosmic justice story. You can't redeem with something that is also blemished. And we get the picture of that all the way back in Exodus 12. So I would take you to Exodus chapter 12. We're just going to read these first 13 verses. I want you to see the specificity, even in the Torah, even in the Pentateuch, even if you're a Jewish person watching, the specificity of the need of an unblemished lamb. Last week we looked at Isaiah 59 and said God was going to send a redeemer. He looked for somebody to intercede, someone that could step in between the cosmic justice of God and man's depravity and rebellion, someone among the humans, and found no one, so he sent his own right arm. That's where we finished last week. But I want to take you to Exodus 12. What was it going to require? This is where we get Passover. This is where we get Easter. Somehow we call it Easter. I think it's more biblically accurate to call this Passover, so it doesn't disunify us from the Jewish roots that exist that would be very compelling to us intellectually and otherwise if we really understood what Easter was. It wasn't just bunnies and things popping up out of the ground and Jesus, oh yeah, at the end. No, it was centralized around first redemption and ransom, but then the proof of it being through this unblemished lamb when, well, the power of death could not hold this lamb. Now, this is about 12 to 1,500 years before the time of Jesus. But listen to the language. Verse 1 of Exodus 12. Now, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. We did a whole thing on the spring feast not long ago. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying on the 10th of this month, they are each one to take a lamb for themselves according to their father's households, a lamb for each household. Now, if the household is too small, he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons in them, according to what each man should eat, and you should divide the lamb. Your lamb shall be what? An unblemished male, a year old, and you may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it unto the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight. Now, just get the situation. If you know the story, again, this is the Exodus story. So Moses has now gone into Egypt. He is requiring from Pharaoh, let my people go. And this is a confrontation with the Elohim, or the gods of Israel, the divine entities that exist in rebellion against God. This is a showdown at the OK Corral. And there is Pharaoh is hardened until the very final blow, and it will be this: the firstborn of each household, unless they find the blood on the doorposts of the house of an unblemished lamb, will be taken. Why? Why would God have this in his Bible? Verse 7, moreover, they shall take some of the blood, put it on the two doorposts, and on the lintel of the houses in which they eat. They shall eat the flesh that same night, roasted with fire, and they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. I wish I had time to go into all three of those things, but that's another 10 sermons. Verse 9, do not eat any of it, raw or boiled at all with water. Why would that happen? Because Jesus was going to have to go as the unblemished lamb through the fire of affliction. No water, no easy way out. Rather, roasted with fire, both its head and its legs, along with its entrails, and you shall not leave any of it over until morning. Now, if Jesus is the unblemished lamb, and this is in some way a prefiguring of this unblemished lamb, Jesus, this is also giving me instructions from the Old Testament about how I am to take Jesus into my house, if you will, and examine him. Is Jesus who he said he was? Can I trust this historical figure? Can I trust this guru, spiritual guru, or is this someone more? I would say much, much, much more. Take him into your house today and ask the question, is this Jesus more than what I may have always assumed through my tradition, through my understanding, through my just kind of knowledge of this iconic figure? Take him in and eat all of what he said, and do it now. Don't leave any over until morning. All of Jesus' teaching. Whatever is left until morning you shall burn with fire. Verse 11, now you shall eat it in this manner, with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. My challenge to you today, if you don't know about Jesus, dive in, eat all of it, learn it, do it with haste, don't wait. Don't say, oh, one day as I get a little bit older, maybe I'll kind of explore the religious and the spiritual side of my life. You may not make it. I wonder if anybody died here at Coachella this last couple of days, maybe an OD or a car accident. Saw a car accident over here on 52nd in Madison. I was going by the other day. I assume they lived, but I don't know. Don't wait. There's no reason. Do it in haste. If Jesus was who he said he was, he needs to be eaten today. That's why he said, you must eat my flesh and drink my blood. Do it now. Why would you wait? Then if you say, okay, I explored his teachings, I expanded, he explained my heart, but it doesn't resonate with me, I don't believe it, fine. And Jesus said, go ahead. If I don't do the works of my Father, go ahead. You don't need to believe in me. Make a decision one way or the other, but why vacillate? He hates lukewarmness. Why vacillate? Do it in haste. And that's exactly what we're learning from the Pentateuch, from the Torah. This is well in advance again with Jesus. Verse 12 says, for I will go through the land of Egypt on that night and will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And against all the gods, the Elohim, these divine beings of Egypt, I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. The blood should be a sign for you on the houses where you live, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. And you wonder again, and I say this a lot, and I'm unapologetic about it, Church at the Red Door will always be a church that first and foremost puts the necessary redemption of the cross, Jesus buying us back, and your life covered in the blood, not just God helping you to live your dreams. No, cross, Jesus crucified, dead, buried, resurrection at the center of every single message, because the whole book's about Jesus, and this is the epicenter, not the end, but the beginning of your days, as we saw. This is the beginning of months for you. And so when you see our sign and 40,000 people see this as they drive by, I love them going, why? It looks like blood splattered. Church of the Red Door, what a strange church that must be. What kind of cult is that? I want them to think that because I want them to come in and explore. Jesus Christ crucified. What did Peter say? 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 18. Knowing that you were not redeemed, again, bought back legally, through this cosmic, redemptive, and ransom story, you were not redeemed with perishable things like silver or gold from your... This defines my whole life. This is why this resonated with me. Futile way of life. I had a futile life. I did things in futility. I wanted to satisfy any desire that came up, I wanted to satisfy it, and I lived in the same realm. What a futile way to live. As an animal. And it was inherited from my forefathers. No, it wasn't redeemed with gold or silver. It was redeemed with the precious blood as of a lamb, typologically, as of a lamb, unblemished and spotless, the blood of Christ. That's why the guy stood up and said, I cannot redeem it. I cannot redeem it. Nobody can redeem your life, especially not you. I'll just clean up my act a little bit. We'll have Earth 2.0. We'll try to be nice to one another. It doesn't work. No political system, no philosophical system, no construct known to man can reverse the curse. Only that, the blood of an unblemished lamb. So Boaz, a picture, a typological picture of Jesus who would come, the kinsman-redeemer. How do we know? Well, if this is applicable back then, say 1,000 or so years before the time of Jesus, a little bit more, was Jesus really unblemished? Did you know that Jesus, seven's very important symbolically, especially for Hebrew numerology, to understand seven's the number of completion. That's why you see 7 all the time in the book of Revelation, the number of completion, the number of completion, the number of completion. Did you know Jesus was examined 7 different times in the Gospels? They found nothing wrong with him. So before twilight hits, couple of days leading up after, the day leading up after his arrest, he came before Annas, the father-in-law of Caiaphas. We see that in John 18. He came before Caiaphas, the high priest. All 4 gospel accounts tell us that. Number 2. 3, he came before the Sanhedrin. Matthew, Mark, and Luke all say that he came before the Sanhedrin. He came before Pilate. Twice he comes before Pilate. First, all 4 gospel accounts. Then he was taken back to Herod, and he was examined by Herod. Herod found nothing wrong with him. Gospel of Luke. Back to Pilate, the 6th time. The 2nd time, all 4 gospel accounts give us an account there. And then finally, the people. And the people were like, Pilate was, who shall I release? He was examining Barabbas, the real criminal. Shall I release him to you? Or Jesus, the unblemished one? The same people on Palm Sunday that were saying, our King, quoting Psalm 118. Right? This is him. This is the guy. This is our Messiah. And then when they took him into custody, they were like, give us Barabbas. Every man. Jesus took the place of every man. But he was unblemished. So, finally, back to our story. In conclusion, Ruth chapter 4. If you know this will make more sense, right? But sometimes you have to know a little blocking and tackling things to get to where you need to go, because if I just get up here and theologically say redemption, you're like, theological terms. No, vital to your understanding of the cosmic order, of the total restoration and recovery process. Verse 7 of Ruth 4. Now this was the custom in former times in Israel concerning the redemption and the exchange of land to confirm any matter. A man removed his sandal and gave it to another, and this was the manner of attestation in Israel. So the closest relative said to Boaz, a prefiguring of Jesus, are you with me? Buy it for yourself. Go ahead, Boaz, you buy it for yourself. I can't redeem it. You're right, you're unblemished. But Boaz, as a type, was this unblemished kinsman-redeemer. As a type. Now, Boaz was a man like anybody else, but it's a prefiguring. So he removed his sandal, the man who could not redeem it. So, in other words, why the sandal thing? We don't know exactly. This kind of gives us a peek behind what would have happened in these ancient customs things. As we saw last week, 10 came to the gate to be a quorum, if you will, to witness this. And so the guy finally goes down and he takes off his sandal and he hands it to Boaz and says, okay, you redeem it. And Boaz says, okay, I'll do it. What was that a picture of? I think, if I had to speculate, that if you're redeeming a piece of land and you take off your sandal and give it to another, what you're saying is, I relinquish my right to walk around on this dirt anymore. In other words, you redeem it. You know, that's exactly what Jesus has done. In a cosmic way, he has ransomed and redeemed all who would come to him, but also heaven, the kingdom of heaven, is now overlapped with earth, and Jesus is coming not only for his people, but for his stuff. And the stuff is earth. And so he gets the sandal. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess, every principality, spiritual force, cosmic force, every ruler, every demonic entity, everything will bow the knee. Jesus gets not only his people back, and I'm asking you, are you covered in the blood? Are you his people? And he will get his stuff back. And then we will not have Earth 2.0. We will have eternity 1.0, and we will live with no more tears and no more pain and no more suffering forever and ever and ever, and it will have no end, and no sin will ever encroach again, and it will be as it was originally intended to be, us partnered with God, living in His presence. And can you imagine creating culture for all of eternity in tandem with God? That's the story. Or, I'll stick with I mean nothing. I think I mean nothing, Jeff. I'm just a chance from, God knows where. Oh, excuse me, not God. Wherever all this came from, something from nothing. What a fairy tale that you live in if you believe in it. I can't believe in fairy tales. I believe in the reality of a creator and His plan for cosmic redemption. So, verse 9. Then Boaz said to the elders and all the people, "Your witnesses today I have bought from the hand of Naomi and all that belonged to Elimelech and all that belonged to Chilion and Mahlon. How, moreover, I have acquired Ruth the Moabitess." And I've said over and over, and it may have been a little bit difficult to follow, I understand, but Ruth was a Gentile. I have bought back a people that worship false gods. I have bought back the Gentile. And I don't know if I have Jewish friends that say, well, where's the whole light to the world stuff that all your prophets talked about? Who can do that? There's Gentile billions of us, and billions of people, Gentiles over the last 2,000 years, saying, this Jewish rabbi has changed my life. Who are you waiting for? If you're Jewish, what other Messiah has done that around the globe? Every tribe, every tongue, every people, He is our Redeemer. He's changed the course of my life. He's given me a new heart. He's put a new spirit in me. If not Jesus, to my dear Jewish friends, who? Who will do that globally? To marry Ruth, a type of all Gentiles who, we were out worshiping the stones and the rocks and the trees. And now we've been introduced to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the creator of everything. Now that's life-changing. That'll preach. Verse 11. All the people who were in the court and the elders said, "We're witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel or Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel, and may you achieve wealth in Ephrathah and become famous in Bethlehem. Moreover, may your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah through the offspring which the Lord will give you." And I have one more big point to make before I conclude this series, and so hang on, it's coming. Verse 13, so Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife and went into her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. This whole marriage dynamic, again, let me restate. Jesus is the groom, the church is the bride. Both Jew and Gentile, Naomi and Ruth come in, and they are both restored through this relationship with the kinsman-redeemer, and there is now new humanity that comes out of that. Then the women said to Naomi, "Blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today, and may his name become famous in Israel. May he also be to you a restorer of life, and a sustainer of your old age, for your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to him." Now, this lineage is very important because this will lay the foundation for you to understand that this message has application to you today, and here it is. Are you ready? Verse 16, then Naomi took the child, laid him in her lap, and became his nurse, and the neighbor women gave him a name, saying, "A son has been born to Naomi," so they named him Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Can you imagine that in the lineage of King David, who would be a prefiguring, again, not of Jesus as Redeemer, dyer, blood-spilling lamb, but king? He's both. That's the problem. People see, well, the Messiah was supposed to be a king. He is, was, and now well, forevermore will be. Every knee will bow, every tongue confess that Jesus is the King of the cosmos. But first he had to come as a lamb. But now he's in the lineage of King David, a type of future King Jesus. It's called the Davidic covenant. You can see it in 2 Samuel chapter 7. Wow, the great-grandmother of David is a Gentile? It gets worse. Who's the great-great-grandmother? Many don't know the answer to this question. The great-great-grandmother of King David, a future king typology of Jesus, will be Rahab, another Gentile, and if you want to add any color to it, she was a prostitute. And Matthew, in his account of all this genealogical nonsense, isn't even afraid to say that, yeah, that's the story. King Jesus came through King David. King David came through Gentile prostitutes, Gentile enemies, a Moabitess. Yes. And there it is. There you have it. There's the Messiah of the world. Just for the Jews, just the Jewish Messiah? No. Isaiah 42, Isaiah 49, you could go on. A light to the nations. Genesis 12, Abraham, if you'll just believe what I'm telling you, I'll make you a father of many nations, and in your seed, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. What import does that have for you today? I'm asking you the question. You can't have strayed too far. Prostitution, false worship of other gods, you name it, they're all part of the story. What does that mean for you? It means you too can be part of the story of restoration. And I don't care what your background is or where you come from. That's what the book of Ruth very clearly states. That could be you. You don't know the roads that I've been down. Doesn't matter. Yeah, but I denounced my faith years ago. I said I wasn't going to believe. God surely has no place in his kingdom for me. I beg to differ. Excuse me. Who cares what I think? Jesus, the kinsman-redeemer, begs to differ. Think about that. So there you have it. Verse 18. These are the generations of Perez. To Perez was born Hezron, and to Hezron was born Ram, and to Ram Amminadab, and to Amminadab was born, well, who? Nahshon. And to Nahshon, Salmon, and to Salmon, oh yeah, who was Salmon? Who was that character? He was one of the spies that went in to check out, well, you know, when the walls came tumbling down, the old Jericho story, he was one of those spies, and it was the faith of this prostitute living in the wall there, named Rahab, who hung out the scarlet thread, which is a picture of blood, again, typologically. And so she was the only one left, she and her family, and so the spy goes, it's pretty good looking. I think I'll marry her. And it was their offspring who was Boaz. You can't make this stuff up. And it's awesome. And to Boaz, Obed. And to Obed was born Jesse. And to Jesse, David. If this wasn't enough to confirm that the ultimate Redeemer was Jesus, God shockingly puts Ruth in the lineage. I just can't imagine this. This is just unbelievable. So where did we start with this whole Ruth thing? It's about devotion. And I told you that Ruth's statement to Naomi, your God will be my God, is one of the great clarion calls to devotion. I mean, it's one of the beautiful pictures. But in the end, it's not even about Ruth's devotion to Boaz. It's more about Boaz's devotion to not only Ruth, but to the world. It's about Jesus' devotion to you. 1 John chapter 4 says, Well, what does it say? It says that he loved you even before you loved him. It says we love because he loved us first. Love is played out in devotion one to another. But the fact that I'm able to be devoted to you or you to me in some even transitory sense, some powerful way, is actually already been played out. We love because he first loved us. Can you get that? I'm not here because I'm a good guy and I found the right answer and I found Jesus. He loved me first, way first, all the way back, well, even before the foundations of the earth, if you can imagine that. I don't get it. I don't know why he would love me. I have a real hard time loving me. Because I know what goes on the inside of my heart, and I'm not even aware of all the nonsense that goes on in my heart, and he loved me first. Well, I'm a Gentile. Yeah, so was Ruth. Well, I'm a failure. I killed a man. I'm an adulterer. And so was King David. Well, I had some inspired moments in my life, but, in the end, Solomon. This is not a book about heroes or saints. It tells us we're a saint. It's a book about one God that took on human flesh to redeem humanity. And it gives me hope that I can be part of a story much bigger than myself, which paradoxically will not only help the restoration of all things. He doesn't need me to restore the earth. He's doing it, but I want a partner. Send me in the game, coach. I don't want to ride the bench anymore. Put me in. Just give me a minute, even if we're ahead by 80 points. Put me in. Sometimes I watch the NBA and I watch them. At the very end of the game, there's like 20 seconds. They finally secure the game. They're trying to protect their stars. And these poor guys are only making about $5 or $6 million a year sitting on the bench, never having to play. And they're like, and they get in and they go in and the guy throws the ball and they can't even make a play. They just got to kind of dribble across the court to get it across the line. And then they sit there and dribble it out until the buzzer. They get a shot. They get nothing up. It's just terrible. Put me in the game. That's what I want. I want to make Jesus famous in the earth because I know what he redeemed me from: futility, eternal separation. The earth will once again be his, folks. You can do it yourself or you can choose him. And next week, we won't be talking about the cross. We'll be talking about the other side of the cross. And that's a resurrection.